is we have one of the living legends of wrestling coaching, in my opinion, a guy I really, truly admire, doing a wonderful job up there at Wasatch High School. We're going to be talking with Wade Disher tonight. We're going to be talking about the Wasatch High School program and the youth programs there and all the elements that make Wasatch High a wrestling power for quite the long time. And so we welcome Wade. We also have Cole Kelly with us. He'll be asking some questions. Always great to have Cole Kelly with us, one of the movers and shakers of on the Utah wrestling scene for sure. So Wade, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Hey, nice to have you, Wade.
It's always good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, well, it's always good to talk to you. No big complaints here on my fifth job of the night. Yeah. Teach, driver ed, podcast, you know how that is, right?
Welcome to the life of a school teacher, Brian.
That's right. We just work 9 months a year, right? And 6 hours a day, right? So I don't want to get too political. Let's talk some wrestling here, Wade. Hey, back-to-back state champions, right? Did I get that right, or has it been 3 in a row?
That's two. It's two.
Two in a row, and looking pretty good for 3, right? You got to like your chances overall going into next year. Or?
Yeah, it's we got some good kids, but I tell you what, 4A wrestling with you got Payson and Maple Mountain and Uinta and Box Elder. There's five teams that I think can all win it on a given. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll make it tons of fun come February.
Now, I hate to throw this question at you because if I was asked the same question, I'd go, I have no idea what my lineup's going to be. I didn't weigh these guys in yesterday, and it's September, But let's maybe go through, your lineup a little bit. I know you'll probably be having, some competition in some weight classes like you do every year. You had the ultimate competition to wrestle off at 120 pounds for the state title. So maybe let's best you can, giving your best guess, because we always love to mention a lot of young people's names on this show. And excuse my phone for ringing.
It's all right.
My wife, I'll just ignore her. Did I just say that? It's going to be on YouTube. All right. So
now it's on the podcast, Brian.
Not on the podcast. So Wade, let's go through your lineup, 106 on up. And like I said, just do the best you can,
Yeah. I'm scrambling right now trying to figure out who's going to be where, and I don't want to leave anybody out. And I'm not even really sure. 106, we got a slew of kids there. Kids that wrestled 106 last year that are coming back, both our state qualifiers. Mitchell Slack and Preston Blotter. And they were small, undersized kids last year, 95 pounds, and having to compete against bigger kids. And I talked to Mitchell a couple nights ago, and he seems to be growing right now, and he'll be probably a full-size 106-pounder. Preston Blotter, told him he's got to be a full-size 106-pounder by February. He's still got a little ways to go yet, but he put in a real good summer. Ended up placing out at Fargo, and Greco was 1 match away, actually about a second away from placing in freestyle, and in a match that he should have won. But he had a wonderful summer. But we bring in a couple freshmen too, and I'm not sure if Declan Kelly, he might be 113. He's right in that tweener weight right now, but he didn't wrestle last winter. He had a broken arm he had in football, and then he came out again in the freestyle season, ended up winning a freestyle state title. And he's a tough kid. He spent a lot of time wrestling this summer too. He went to a number of camps. And Trayson Davis was he was a 90-pounder last year. He's over 100 pounds now, and he'll be battling that position too.
Well, I know there's 2 prominent Kelly families out there. Is this a relation to Cole here or Clint's?
No, don't even start that one.
No. Yeah, I mean, I've got a brother that lives in Heber City, and he's got 2 boys that have never wrestled. Can you believe that?
They wrestled when they were little kids, but then they decided to ski.
So, that's a different Kelly family, Brian.
Believe it or not, my father let me ski and wrestle, so it is possible.
Yeah.
Imagine me on
So
ski.
I got a good situation there, and those kids will push each other, and we'll probably see each one of those kids in the lineup on varsity throughout the year.
Which Kelly? Declan Kelly is Jason's boy, right?
No, it's Jeff.
Jeff, okay.
Jeff Kelly's. He lives over there. We call it the Kelly compound in Midway, but he's over there too.
They spelled their last name wrong, Brian.
Yeah,
They don't have that extra E in
they
there.
don't have the extra E.
That's right.
Sense.
Is it 113 pounds? I keep forgetting the weight.
Yeah, 113 pounds right now. I'm not really sure what we got there and who can make that weight. We're going to try to get a couple kids certified at that weight, but it may not be a situation where we have that really settled until later in the year. Because Trevor Clyde was a freshman last year. He's a possibility there, state qualifier. He's young. He's a talented wrestler. And I really look for big things out of him this season. He might be up at 120 for most of the season. We'll kind of see how kids grow. I got some kids that are freshman, sophomore, and they're starting to mature, and it's just hard to hold them back, from growing. Trevor Clough has grown. He's 20 to 26. I'm guessing somewhere in there. Sammy Haywood, he's probably in that same boat. He'll probably be 20, 26. Who knows? If you look at the stock he comes from, he's got some beefy brothers, but you never know.
Well, let's mention Sammy Haywood was in our last week, Wade. We did our top 10 freshmen.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was in there, so that's exciting. He's giving you more depth there.
Yeah, he's a tough competitor. A lot of wrestling experience throughout the years, and really looking forward to him making his way into our lineup. And having two kids being able to go to the state tournament, it will hopefully solve some of these problems here. And I think we're still scoring both of them this year, which I don't necessarily agree with, but that's the rules right now. But
I take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, some years you take advantage of it, and some years I don't where Delta just beat us up on a lot of those second kids. So
just my quick philosophy, I have no problem with it. You're the one that coached him. You're the one that trained him. You're the one that brought him up.
Yeah.
I always look at it as track. You take 2 or 3 runners to the track meet. You could put 3 runners in the 100 meters, and they all score for your program. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah. There's we'll get into that probably at some point along the. Don't even know that story, I guess.
I'm always going off on tangents. So 120, 126 looks like you got 3 or 4 guys there.
Yeah, Stockton O'Brien. We're thanks to Cole's coached him as a youth, and he made his way up to Heber. His sister had an opportunity to go up to school in Park City, and we're lucky to have him. He's one of those kids that's there the whole time, puts in a lot of time and effort, and he wants to be the best, just like a lot of these kids.
Yeah, he eats it up. He loves it.
So his sister's at Park City High, or just?
No, it's a charter school over there.
Okay.
Just a different situation, that the opportunity they've been trying to get into for a few years. He moved here. It's almost been 2 years now since he's made his way in. Okay. And he's kind of slid into a great situation with a bunch of good workout partners there. I probably see him he might be one of those kids that gets certifies down lower at 20, and you probably see him wrestling a lot of 126 throughout the year. Struggled a little bit with his weight this summer, but he's actually kind of leaned out right now. He looks really good. Zach Kohler, just a beast right now. His kids are coming in, they're working out. A lot of these smaller weight guys are coming in because they're not playing football. And he's one of those kids that is he's a leader. Just because of how he wrestles and how he prepares. He's one of those, I always told him he's one of those 1%ers or 0.1 percenters, just because of his commitment level. And, he's tough. He competes well. He had a great Fargo tournament, placed out there in Greco, a little bit short in freestyle, but, he was actually wrestling up at 32 at the time, decided not to pull a lot of weight and wanted just to go out and wrestle tough, especially being, where he was. So he'll probably fit in. I'm guessing 32, maybe 38. He's gotten thick. So we got some guys we can shift around. I'm not sure if he's a fully bona fide national on a national level 38 pounder, but he definitely will be able to compete there in our state. And so we'll have to shift things around for our duels, depending on how we get match up with teams. 45 we return. It depends on where they're at. Probably Corbin Smith or Stephen Baloff. And
so it looks like Corbin's grown a little bit.
Yeah, Corbin has. Corbin's gotten taller. He's I'm sure he's walking around over 155, 50, 55, somewhere in there.
We saw that out of Ethan. He grew a lot.
Okay. But he's still growing. Each of those Smith boys kind of had a different path. Because when I coached here before, I had Jordy and Casey, Ethan coming up, and they all kind of matured at different times. So it's hard to say where they're going to end up. Casey ended up not growing until he got out of college, which is kind of funny. I got another kid in there. I'm not sure where Logan Kennard is. He was a freshman last year. He'll be an up and comer. He'll be a guy that'll come and get into our lineup from time to time as we move things around. Same with Brock Lloyd, who's a freshman. He's, I was expecting him to really put on some weight. He really hasn't. He's still right around that 145, 150. So he'll be in that 38 to 52, depending on where he's at. Just trying to think of some other kids. Seth Gardner's grown. My son Jake has grown. They'll probably be up there at 160, maybe sliding up to 170. We got some horses in the state, and I think a lot of kids will be trying to find out where Brock Hardy's going to be and where he's going to end up come the state tournament. And it doesn't matter for him. It matters for everybody else. And you'll see kids shifting around to try to probably avoid him. You got those weights where you got that Loveless kid out of probably, I'm not sure where it'll be, 45, 52, probably trying to fit in here. I would say he kind of sacrificed a little bit last year for his team. He wrestled up at I'm not up or down, whatever, but he wrestled at 38, where arguably one of the best kids to come through Utah was wrestling with Taylor Lamont, and he went out and battled him every time. And so he'll be looking to be a state champ again, senior year. Then you look at Isaac Wilcox, who's really he's put a lot of time in this last summer, and he's going to be a tough one to beat. And those are the kids we'll be banging heads with in those middle weights. Seth Gardner put in a real good summer, wrestled throughout along with my son Jake, and those two have really have improved a lot. I'm running low on battery here, but I'll figure it out. I'm not sure how to do this.
Technology. So
Cole, I found the cord. I found
right here. Plug figured out. What do you think about that lineup, Cole? That's
Wasatch is running one of the best feeder programs I think in the state right now, and it's starting to really show. And I think that they're doing a tremendous job. K through 12, and they get into the high school ranks. And Wade, I respect Wade as one of the best high school wrestling coaches in the state, if not the country. I think he does a tremendous job of developing kids when they come through his program. So the key, and Wade mentioned, the depth the depth is what is required in Utah to win state titles, and I think that's good. And Wasatch certainly has. Brian, you've always talked about the idea of having that star power, but you need the star power and those guys that are going to win state titles. But then you need the depth, and you need those guys coming through the back door and finishing, 4th, 5th, 6th place, because they pick up lots of points for you through that back door.
Yeah, I think, last couple of years you could say, I don't know, Wade could probably slap me across the head if he disagreed.
I'll probably do that anyway.
Yeah, you would anyway. But, I think Maple Mountain and Wasatch have been comparable in the star power area. But I think Wasatch has had the superior depth, and that's what's taken them to the gold trophy.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's just more placers, as you said, Cole, and I'm sure the amount of state champions has been pretty similar between the two programs, but I think the underneath or the guys coming through consolation have made that difference. So Wade, we got
we're through 160, 170.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points there. Maple Mountain really set the bar high there for a couple, 3-4 years where you saw those kids coming through, and our kids were competing with those kids, and it made us a lot better, tougher. And they had some bad breaks over the last couple of years. But I guess a lot of programs go through those kind of things, and you hope you ride a wave long enough, and we've been pretty fortunate. But we had some lean years there too, where we had some not good things happening. And
I think you're just young to me,
Yeah.
And
well, these kids that are coming through, the kind of the expectation was when they were growing up, and Cole alluded to this last time too. It's beneficial when there's a core of kids when you have parents that are invested. You have the coach's kid, you have his group of friends. I got parent support that I have is incredible. They're willing to send their kids off to wherever and kind of trust Coach Disher, I guess.
Yeah. And this is a group of kids around a Disher boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was not, by no means was he the star. He was just one of the guys.
Right.
And the cool thing about it, there's this, when you have that, the talent, obviously you've got talent, athleticism, but when you have kids that genuinely care about each other and, are concerned more about their teammate having success in themselves, I think that says a lot. That goes so far. And they've been a real good example for these younger kids, and hopefully we can kind of think that perpetuates itself as time goes by. Because it's an encompassing group. They bring in these younger kids. I think of like Sammy Haywood. Sammy Haywood has been bounced around the back of Suburbans and whatnot, and been for years with these guys. And so there's that expectation. And speaking of that, Richie Haywood is probably going to be our, I would say, depending on, again, probably start off at 82, maybe 70. We'll have to look at things. But he's the type of wrestler that he can handle wrestling up. Just his style of wrestling, he's a bruiser. And DJ Cohen, returning, Richie was a returning state champ. DJ Cohen, returning finalist. And I think he's got a lot that he wants to accomplish this year, come back as a junior, and not, in my opinion, not wrestling the way he can wrestle at that moment in the state tournament last year. And he's put on a lot of weight. I told him to get as big as he could. Actually, that's what I've tried to tell our kids, is just get in the weight room and eat right, live right, and your body's you're gonna start growing. And DJ's
Richie and DJ, are they playing football right now? Or?
Yeah. Actually, everybody that I mentioned, basically from 145 up, except for Jake and Seth, they're playing football. All these other kids are, and a lot of those kids are.
Richie's a really good football player. I'm impressed with him over the years.
He bounces around there. Stephen Balliff is a little scat back. I shouldn't say little. He's a beefy thing. A lot of those guys, DJ. Then we get to some of our bigs. We got Wilder Smith, who's a sophomore last year, kind of immature physically immature, still figuring out his body. This big creature that had to put on some weight, and he was weighing over 225, 230. He'll be coming in as our 220 pounder. Looking for some good things out of him this year, and a lot of people. And we have some other kid, Javier. Got another kid, Gerson Cabrera. He's probably about 82. He was a sophomore last year, and just some really. He's like a 4.0 student, a great kid. Works hard, and he's on the football team too, doing really good things there. And I can't say enough about a lot of these guys. We got Bob Schick. Bob Schick was, kind of a heavyweight last year. You probably don't even know who these kids are.
I do, actually. I do.
Bob's probably grown about 2 inches and put on about 30 pounds.
If they've wrestled a high school wrestling match, Brian knows who they are.
And he was a first-year kid last year. And he ended up hurting his knee towards the end of the season, and he finished it out. And that was one thing with our program is wrestling's such a tough sport. You have those kids that just want to be a part of the wrestling team,
Right.
and things that, and you have the kids that commit their lives to it. This is what they do from their when they're little kids, and we don't have that big of a room in terms of numbers. We have, maybe start off with 45 kids, and by the time at the end of the season, we're down to maybe 35. And injuries, and just, kids don't make it after a week or two, just trying wrestling. So I try to keep these kids going. If they finish the season, they letter. That's it. There's no point system. I had to win this many matches, and by finishing the season, they have to finish it out through the culminating tournament. Now with Utah USA Wrestling, we have, some kids are able to wrestle in the junior high state. We kind of talked about this a little bit. If they're ninth graders that don't ever wrestle varsity or wrestle in the high school, we have other kids that wrestle in the JV state tournament. And so there's always a culminating tournament for everybody. And so they get to experience that. But,
so wait, one thing that you're talking about that I think is one of the keys to running a successful high school program, and Brian, we're going back again to the point that you always make of the star power, and then those kids that come through that back door score lots of points for you. But you find a lot of teams in high school wrestling that are really good from 120 to 152.
Yep.
And when you get to 160 and above, there's often a big fall off, And I think the key, you look at Wasatch, you look at Pleasant Grove, and you look at those top level programs, Maple Mountain, et cetera. They're able to get those kids out. They may not be the kids that have been wrestling for 8 years, for 10 years or whatever, but they come out maybe as a freshman or a sophomore. And I even got one out as a junior that did really well for me. And they're big, athletic, strong kids, and you teach them how to wrestle.
Yep.
And they scored lots of points for your team. And I think it's the difference between, some of the top programs and some of those that are trying to break through.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You look at some of these kids that come up, and you don't know what you got when a kid's a freshman in high school and playing freshman football. And so I try to encourage those kids to come out. Coach Colburn, the football coach here, he's been really good to work with. He's really, really encouraging his kids, his football players, especially his linemen, to get out for wrestling, toughen them up, learn how to hand fight. Because that's what it is. You have a 7-second fight, hand fight. It's a wrestling match. You go to watch two heavyweights battle it out. There's a lot more than 6 seconds where they're banging heads and trying to move the other guy. And we've had there's been some real important kids that have come through our program, not coming through as little kids, but starting as freshmen. Ben, you guys know Ben Boss? You ever hear
I was going to actually bring him up because, I imagine Coach Coburn kind of saw what wrestling did for Ben. And I'm sure having been in your program did a lot for your program as far as, wow, here's this big football stud in our program.
And he's playing football up at Weber right now. But I still believe in my heart he's a Division I wrestler. I actually talked to him. I think it was last night I talked to him. He's going to be helping coach Bonneville wrestling this season.
Oh, good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah. I called and told her, texted me, then I gave him a call. But he just a great example of how wrestling can cross over to football. Not if you're a skilled player as much, obviously, but those big guys. I had a kid, Tyson Kohler. I don't know if you remember that name.
Yeah.
Tyson Kohler came through. I don't think he started wrestling until he was a sophomore. And by the time he was done, he was wrestling 220 in heavyweight, and pound for pound, he beating everybody. He made the finals at Reno, and it doesn't take a lifelong, how do I want to say this, a commitment to wrestling to wrestle those upper weights.
Right.
They develop the skill set's different, and I've been very fortunate to have some great coaches. Cole Schaefer's come back from wrestling college and really spent a lot of time working with those big guys. I've had, and those are the things that takes to help those guys move on. I got to the point where I couldn't wrestle Ben anymore because he hurts me.
Yeah. I had one of those heavyweights like that too.
I had 3 Freeman brothers.
Yeah,
so.
you had those guys too.
Yeah.
Most of my good guys were in the upper weights actually, and football guys, like you were saying. But you guys are playing Salem Hills in football this week, right?
Yep.
You're going to see Jackson Van Tassel out there playing football, and he's, to me, the best. Well, there's the Wolfgram kid too for Salem Hills, but he's to me the second or third best football player on that team. And he's just plain raw bone tough, and
Yep.
kind of interesting if him and Richie meet out there on the football field.
Well, sure they'll say hi to each other a few times. That'll be good. Wrestling's one of those things that's not for everybody, but you know what? If everybody could do it, it would definitely at some point it makes a difference in everything that they do. And it's tough to get kids to wrestle sometimes.
The story that I tell, I had a big guy. It was when I came to American Fork High School. This kid, I knew he was a tough kid. I knew he had a wrestler's mentality. This is my biggest argument for why I think a 2-piece uniform should be a legal uniform. Not everybody has to go to it, but man, he didn't want to wrestle for one reason only, and it was because he didn't want to wear that stupid uniform, right? And but he was a junior my first year here. I did everything but pay him lots of money to come out. I begged him to come out, and I finally got him to come out, and I promised him he wouldn't have to wear a singlet. I bought him some fight shorts and a tight-fitting top, and I was just going to talk to coaches and say, we'll forfeit the match. It's not a legal uniform, but I want this kid on the mat. And we went through the season, and he finally got the day before our first dual meet, and he said, give me that stupid uniform. I didn't do all this work to forfeit matches.
That's great.
Did he stick with it, Cole?
Yeah, he wrestled his junior and senior year, and he was 2 years captain of BYU's national championship rugby teams.
Oh, cool. So you got to see this, and I was going to say, give a compliment to Ben Boss there for going out and helping Bonneville out. And there's a program that needs some help, and that's giving back. And so to me, Wade, you've touched his life through wrestling, even though he's playing football. But I think there's a little bit of wrestling in him for sure.
I told him, I said, just let me know when you want me to call these college coaches and tell them you're back on the market. He really didn't get a chance to be recruited for wrestling just because he blew up physically, literally on the scene last year. And, the signing for football basically occurred about 2 weeks before their state tournament, before the college coaches really can. And, there's always that sign now, and this is what you get. We can't guarantee we'll be here for you.
Well, I think one thing all three of us have in common is we've coached great heavyweights. I think we've all coached All-American heavyweights because Ben wasn't All-American, right? He placed out at Reno, right?
Yep.
And I know, Cole's had the Freeman brothers, and, and I've had, as an assistant coach, Jeff Holtery, and it's just cool when you see that football wrestling connection. And
thinking about this year, really try to get, I maybe even have just a separate practice for those big guys, because hopefully we get a bunch more out. Jason Arnold is a senior. He finally came out again. He wrestled when he was a kid, and you know how it is big kids, they have to always wrestle older kids sometimes, and they get chased away. I don't even want bigger kids to be wrestling at the youth level sometimes, because they end up they end up getting run out a little bit sometimes.
Get mauled. Yeah, they get mauled.
And he'll be a leader on our team, a senior at heavyweight too. So we got some biggies. Hopefully we can get some of these freshmen and sophomores that have wrestled before on the mat. And it's
like a very solid team, Wade. You look like you're 2 deep everywhere, maybe 3 deep. A lot of competition in the room, a lot of great workout partners for the kids to choose from. Sounds like you're good to go. I know 4A's got some good teams.
Yeah.
Wade, one thing I'd like you to talk a little bit about. I think right now you have one of the best coaching staffs in the state. Yeah. Talk about some of your assistants and kind of the role that they're playing and how you see them fitting into your program.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. Good question.
I tell you what, I'm going to just start down below. I got people now coming back and helping out with our recreational program. Former wrestlers. I'm trying to think. Some of these kids, Brandon Willett, Cody Sweat, I think, has a boy in the program, and these guys now they're starting to kind of recycle back in, and some others that have helped out just on the rec level, just to be with their kid. Our youth level, really been trying to focus on that. There was a couple of years there where, and we had we had a tragedy in our wrestling program, and I think it scared some people away from wrestling. As I'd go around and talk to kids at football games and whatnot, and yeah, my mom doesn't want me to wrestle, and that kind of hurts. That hurts when kid tells their mom will let them wrestle, and they want to wrestle, and so really trying to focus on the putting the right people in those positions down below, I think, are so important. Those feeder programs, not so much at, I guess at all levels. I have Scott Bonner, who's been around here for a long time. He's helping out Shane Bonner's. He's been part of the program, the Bonner clan, we'll call them, Scott and Shane, and Landon Bonner, and all those guys. They're really passionate about it. They care about what they care about that final product at that state tournament in February, and they get as much joy out of us winning that as the kids do, as I do, and they feel like they've contributed to that. They've seen these kids come through, and their continued help.
The thing that I like to see, Wade, and I think you've got a lot of this in your community, is that I'll see a lot of people that they feel like their skills or the level that they wrestled at is too good to be coaching at the youth level. I don't see that in your community at all. I see them recognizing the value of those programs, recognizing the value of making sure those kids are taught the proper techniques at a young age, and they feed into your program with a good solid base.
Yeah. Steve Sanderson, when he was here and he coached with me, and he mentored me through a lot of especially the developmental part, played a big part in making me see that. As a young guy coming out of college, I'm thinking we'll just get these kids at the high school and we'll just go from there. And it wasn't that way. And having key people at the junior high level, I would say probably the most important part of our program is our junior high. And I got Mitch Morgan there, and Mitch, remember coming back, I'm trying to figure this out. Who are we going to have here? And kind of called him. I said, I coached him when he was here before, and he represented a lot of what I wanted to see in terms of how the kids fight and wrestle and just that gritty attitude. And so he plays a big part in that. I don't know if you guys know this, Danny O'Connor, dealt with Leighton. He's moved up here. He's going to be helping us out at the junior high level too. He'll be in and out of the high school room. I think Braxton's up here too, living full time. He's been helping out. I look at these guys and I'm like, yeah, they asked if they can help. I'm like, yeah, here are the keys to the house, the car, come on in. Cause I look at those guys and they bring in a little bit different probably perspective, but yet they love wrestling just like we all do. And
Mitch could probably go be a high school wrestling coach somewhere and do a phenomenal job. But Mitch is, he's taken the time at the junior high level, and he does a great job.
He does a wonderful job. He fires those kids up. He's passionate about it, and just all the support I can give him, because that's where it's at. I look at these kids that are coming up. He's developed a lot of these kids, and
right. Yeah.
And everybody plays a part in it. You can't say, this person, I've done this, and it's a process, and you make a connection with that one kid, and you bring him through. That's a part of it. I look at my high school staff. Obviously, I got Gabe. I call him the wrestling savant. You guys know Gabe. He's just
That's perfect.
He is just. He sees things, I look at myself now more so as I got a program running practices, but yet Gabe steers a lot of the things that we do. He has the ability to work with individuals very well. And, he's brought our program to a higher level, and I can't speak enough about him. I don't know where we would be right now if he hadn't decided to come here. He's made that much of an impact. I got Bob Piscitelli. He's one of the best guys that's always there helping, keeping me in line probably more than anything, and keeping me taking care of a lot of the details for me. This last year, I think it was one of the best things I've done. I don't know if you guys remember Jake Fassold. You guys know Big Jake?
Yep.
Jake, his career ended short because of concussions. He didn't get to finish out his high school career. And I think he left a lot, he left a lot out there, and ended up going on his mission, coming back, and was able to get him back in our room. And I just got a text from him tonight. He didn't know how much he was going to be able to help out with his new job, but he found out he's going to be able to help out a lot more. So I'm super excited because he's such a positive guy, and he's still got so much to give back. And he's going to be, he's going to be basically our head JV coach. And guys come around. I got another guy, Mark Tobler, wrestled out in Colorado, moved into town a few years back, and he's been kind of in and out. He's got, I'll call it a litter of kids, young ones, but he's going to be able to find some times this year.
Well, let me ask you, Wade, because it seems like you mentioned the O'Connas and Tobler and Stockton O'Brien moving up there. It seems like you got a machine as a program with all the coaches, high school on down through youth. It seems like, Midway Heber, it's sort of like the perfect storm. People want to move there. It's a community where, people are just wanting to, and you kind of see,
we're getting a lot of kids moving here, but not a lot of wrestlers.
Yeah. Well, you say, wrestling's always been tough at Heber, way back when it was an old farm community, but you just kind of see it overall with the athletes that are, at Wasatch now versus, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like you got some coaches that have moved in,
I'll speak to that if you don't mind, Wade, because one thing that I can tell you, I'm a parent right now in a situation, and, I've got an 8th grader, and that 8th grader is going to be wrestling in high school next year. And the way that I look at it as a parent, and I know a lot of parents who invest, I look at Stockton O'Brien, I look at a handful of kids that have come through my program, and they've said, we've invested a lot in this sport, and we're not going to take and just go wrestle for a program just because that's where we live. We want to take our kids and allow them to be a part of a program where the administration cares about that program, where the coach is invested in that program, and where the community is invested in that program. I live in Orem High School boundaries. My son is not going to wrestle for Orem High School. Orem High School administration has gone through 8 coaches in 10 years, I think, since, I don't know how long it's been, and I don't know how many coaches.
It's about right.
But it's been extremely frustrating to watch, and so if the administration isn't committed to going out and finding a good coach, then I'm not going to take my boy who's invested a lot of time and effort and have him attend that school. So, you'll see us next year when Zeke's in 9th grade at a program where the coach and the community is invested.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, like in Heber, like the whole community just seems just rallying around the high school. I mean, that high school is just so
and
beautiful.
There's some
things going on there.
So there's things going on, and it's not just wrestling. At one point, I think a lot of it was just wrestling. But I mean, the football team is having tremendous success. We got all kinds of things going on here. It's pretty cool. And I'll put it this way: the reason that we didn't start till 8 o'clock, I was out golfing.
Yeah, you got great golf courses up there.
With
hey, let's go golfing sometime, Wade. I know. I thought we were friends. Man.
Lonnie Magnuson, who used to be the old basketball coach here, won a number of state titles. I was out golfing, and there was a foursome, and I felt like I was amongst the Mount Rushmore of former coaches, because we had Mike Scholl, the former baseball coach, just retired last year, our swim coach, Steve Marson, who had won a number of state titles. And so there's definitely a culture here that I really like. And you talk about our administration. I told Claire I was going to give her a shout out because I'm using her office right now because my computer is being re-imaged. And so that's why it took me a little bit to get on her computer. Anyway, she is fabulous in terms of supporting program. And that's one of the things that pulled me back here because I did leave. I left for 5 years, and it ultimately came down, where do we want to live? Where do we want to raise our kids?
You went to a great program. You were an assistant coach, right? Up in Minnesota, had a great program, and you came back. And I'm very glad you did, Wade. You had a lot to.
Yeah, and it basically came down, where do we want to raise our kids? Because my son Jake was fourth grade at that time. My daughter Kaylee was in second. My other one was just coming into the junior high, and it was like we got to make the right decisions here, not because of career wise, because things were trending back in Minnesota for both of us, and so we picked up. But I tell you what, my administration back then, they're the ones that brought me back. They're the ones, Paul Sweat, who's now our superintendent, was the athletic director at the time. Jason Watt, my former assistant coach, he was an assistant principal, eventually became my athletic director. Now he's at the district office. He's got kids in the program. He still runs my tournaments for me. I told him the only way I'm coming back to Wasatch is our tournament, the Intermountain Duels. I said, you'll be the tournament director as soon as it becomes the Wade Disher Memorial, that's when he can be done.
Well, let me ask you, it's got to be great to have a former champion wrestler as a superintendent. Wow, right?
Yeah. My principal at the high school when I first got here, he's a guy that was really he was teaching at the junior high. This is Sean Kelly I'm talking about, and he was running my junior high program, and that was his last year doing it. Then now he's my principal, and he was there. He was a big part of putting out the welcome wagon along with his brother Justin, who is the.
So what you're trying to tell us, Wade, is you actually run the school?
No, I do not. I that's the contrary.
My sister was coaching volleyball, Cole, at Granger. They told her to go practice at a church over UEA holiday. They weren't going to let her in the school. And here Wade's sitting in the principal's office, okay? So, you can probably see why Granger struggles in a lot of things, and why Wasatch is kicking.
It's fun to watch the community, and I have that connection with my brother up there, and I don't know. I think Wade has lunch, and so I get it from both ends. Sometimes Wade knows more about my brother than I do.
I worked with your brother last night. I spent a couple nights a week with your brother. We do some stuff up in Timber Lakes. My son and I kind of tore down this house last night for him. Yeah, he pays me when he needs the heavy lifting done.
Right, there you go.
We'll get a wrestler. Hey, talk a little bit about your schedule. You got some pretty, huge challenges for your team. Because probably what happens in the state isn't challenging enough. Or
no, we get. To be honest with you, the state of Utah, the talent that we have here, it's here. Now we have the depth and to find a bunch of new kids. We seek out the best in Utah, and it's tough. It's tough wrestling. It's great wrestling.
We can be at the Ironman and the Rumble, of course, and those are awesome events.
Yeah, we don't do the Ironman anymore.
But you're doing your Intermountain Duels, a great event.
We go Layton first, and this year it's going to be held at the at Farmington up at the Legacy Center, which should be great because then all of our kids can be together and coaches. Then we have our Intermountain Duels, and you're talking about us and Pete, Pleasant Grove. I'm hearing my own feedback. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on.
And I can't fix it. So
okay.
Just deal with the feedback.
Hopefully it goes away.
Carry on, my wayward son.
But we have our tournament, and Pleasant Grove will be here along with Maple Mountain and Box Elder and Mountain Crest. And I know Mountain Crest is going to be down a little bit this year because of the split. South Summit, they got some fabulous kids. Just over the next mountain. So it's going to be a real good tournament. And then we head off the week after, we head off to Reno and wrestle in that Reno tournament. And then we, a moratorium, we have a week off, and then we adjusted our moratorium schedule through the state. So we don't leave the day we come back off a moratorium. We're going to be able to practice and take those days off after we come back after Reno. So we'll have a couple days of preparation. Then we head off to Minnesota to the Clash. And,
Wow.
and the Clash I tell you what, that's such a good tournament. Because you end up, the second day of the tournament, you end up wrestling teams that it's evenly matched, and they're great duels. First day, yeah, you might have an easier team, but it progressively gets tougher, and you end up wrestling. Last year we ended up this team out of Illinois. They beat us in those, winning those 1, 2, 3-point matches, not allowing us to scoring when they need to. I like to go back there because we were able to spend some time. It gives us a benchmark that, okay, these are the things that these teams are doing well, and let's try to become better at those things, and not necessarily defending anything, which is part of it too, but being more in the mind of it's a mindset of how we wrestle. And so that, I really feel that tournament's been really instrumental for us to kind of come back after Christmas with a little bit better edge, kind of, because we got back last year. We got back on Sunday, traveling Thursday, wrestling Friday, Saturday. The kids aren't sleeping very much on Saturday night because it's usually over New Year's. Get back and within a couple days we were wrestling the All-Star duel, and all of our kids they didn't look very good. They looked tired. They looked wore out, and they needed a couple days to recover. It was going through a meat grinder like that was good. Cole does a great job with the Rumble. That's the premier tournament of Utah, because you're bringing everybody in there. It means, we don't have a super state, but this is kind of the super state. I don't look at it. I don't think we need to have another one.
Yeah, the team that wins the Rumble is in my opinion the best team in the state.
I definitely agree.
Wasatch, so.
I concur.
That's it says a lot. We'll send some kids to the South Summit tournament the week before, but coming back after Christmas with that the state dual tournament, kind of pushing into things. We got to figure out where we can recover, prepare, and that kind of stuff, and not be too heavy with the schedule then. Or do in
Can I
splits.
ask you something about the dual tournament, Wade? We're going to change in formats. Wasatch was our first official dual meet state champions for 4A, and PG won at 5A. You seem pretty pleased. Thought the excitement was pretty good. Do you think it'll go into the one-day thing? Will make it bigger and better and more exciting and more fan friendly and all that?
Yeah, and I think it's on the coaches to make it that way to begin with. You try to create that atmosphere or excitement within your school, and I know it's easier in some schools as compared to others. But if the coach makes it important to the team and the community, then I think it becomes very important. If a coach is like, these are other matches, and our real state tournaments here, then that's the wrong perspective. Then it won't grow. I think last year we had the right venue, the wrong schedule for the format. This year, I think we have a lot better format. Could it be tweaked? I think every state's going to be a little bit different. Yeah, maybe. But having a one-day focused, that we're getting 4 matches in today is not going to kill anybody. You can move kids around. You don't have to wrestle everybody all the time. You know what I'm saying?
I think sometimes, Wade, the mistake that we make in the wrestling community is we think every tournament you got to get 10 matches in to have it be a quality tournament. And I think this dual meet state tournament is one of those where, if you wrestle 3 duels, that's enough. If we're looking for the best team, and we start with an 8-team bracket, and we wrestle, quarterfinals, semifinals, and a finals, then I think that's great. Yeah.
By the way, sorry, Cole.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I said, by the way, we're going to do a 16-team bracket, and it's going to be like a volleyball bracket where we place 8 teams. And I think some concerns were like, I don't want to be one and done or two and done or whatever. So you could still fight back for 5th or 6th and, get some duels in there. And so I think it has balance. It doesn't have it's not like a total meat grinder like Cole was saying, but at the same time, you're going to get more than just, kind of a one and done and, get back on the bus and go home thing. You're going to get at least 2 duels at the minimum. A lot of schools will get 3 and a few will get 4, and I think that's a good balance to me. I just hope, like I said, people pack the stands and there's a little bit more energy and excitement than I saw on the first day. Second day, I thought it was pretty good, but first day I was at Mountain View and, it was a pretty Spartan crowd. And, and
that would be cool. That's going to be great to bring that, if you can bring that environment into one place, because our first day was just kind of,
horrible.
It didn't have that state atmosphere feel because you didn't have rivalries. You didn't have those things going on. But if you're wrestling on one mat over here and you're, maybe you're beating a team pretty well. But over here down the way, 2 mats over, you got 2 rivals that are going at it, second round or first round or whatever, crowds into it. It creates an energy. I think eventually we'll get to the point where we have the right venue associated with the right format.
Well, I did I started the same year Chris did with the 4A duels at West High.
Yep.
We actually got 22 4A programs there. They said, you're all invited. I'll come if you want. We got 22, and the place was jam-packed, mats and chairs and parents screaming, and it was great. It was energetic, some coaches just thought it was actually too intense. That was the biggest criticism I got.
Yep.
Well, I think kind of eked out, or kind of lessened a little bit. But my good buddy Cole and I, we battled for the state title one time, the unofficial dual meet state title. It was kind of fun, right, Cole?
That's right. So
the first couple of years, pretty good.
If you were at last year, the finals between Wasatch and Maple Mountain in the 4A classification, it was a great duel. It was really a duel.
Well, I thought the AF Harriman duel was great. The PG Harriman duel was great. The Wasatch Maple Mountain duel was great. I know the Wasatch versus Box Elder was a little bit not competitive,
but there were definitely some competitive matches. That's
competitive matches. Yeah,
you got the dynamics of the duel. That's so interesting. And it's up to us coaches to get our casual fans there. Going in and talking to the administration. We're making the state tournament. If it's a program, that's maybe not that top tier program, but if you can create some excitement, you're going to the state tournament. We're going to the state tournament. Let's load up the buses. Kids I don't care about this. We don't. Yeah, they can watch that and say, I got class with that kid. He's a good wrestler. I like him. And we're cheering for him.
Great opportunity to sell the sport, especially not just for the top programs like you're saying, Wade, but for other programs to go in there and, kids will see, yeah, that's pretty darn exciting. I might want to be a part of that, or at least I might want to go to more meets and watch.
Yeah.
At the very least, I think it has great potential, and fans understand the dual meet. Average casual fans, they don't want to sit through a tournament in 8 hours, they don't want to do that. But a dual meet that lasts a little over an hour, I think, you can get some kids and casual fans out there.
Go get some nachos and come back for the next one and get to do it all over again. There they are. They know how it goes. I was talking about you getting some nachos.
Well, what would you like to see done with it? I mean, you had some great thoughts with how they were doing it in Minnesota.
Give us an update, Wade, on where you think it's at this coming year and where it needs to go.
Yeah, because you're the 4A rep. And
I think having, my big thing was before, creating that state atmosphere or state tournament atmosphere. But taking a step back now, having the right format, I think needs to be in place first, so you get more coach buy-in. I don't think the format that we had last year was to get coaches to say this is something we want to continue to do. I think by changing the format and coming up with that creative, this is not creative, you're recreating the wheel a little bit, but putting the wrestling in that same format as volleyball, it allows for this to take place in one day. You're not getting 6-7 matches. You're getting 4 matches at most. You're guaranteed at least, is it 2, I think? Guaranteed 2 matches. Most teams will get 3 to 4. I think it's just a real good way to approach this. And then as we coaches we got to bring those fans in somehow, some way. The state makes money. They can see the potential on this. Then they'll be more supportive of actually going to a bigger venue, because I think the big issue was losing money last year and securing that venue without understanding, the possibilities. So I think we're heading the right direction for sure.
What's cool, like if you lose your first one, you could battle back to 6. I think it'll make it more interesting for those programs to go, hey, look, I'm going to be wrestling Wasatch in the first round, and let's face it, we're doomed. But hey, let's go back door, win 3 matches, say we're 6th in state. I think that's going to excite those coaches, those wrestlers, and those fans of some of these programs that are not top level.
Especially that first round, it's probably not going to be the appropriate competition, but from that point on, it becomes evenly matched, especially on the backside. You're going to see teams that region rivals, crosstown rivals that wouldn't have had this type of experience at a normal state tournament. You know what I'm saying? That'll be able to battle back, and that's what I think is really cool. And they can hang a banner in the wrestling room. They can, state dual tournament, 5th place, 6th place, whatever, and that means a lot. And kids are part of that experience. And I think kids having those experiences grows our sport. We want to act like it's we all do this. We as coaches, wrestlers, this is my thing. I work hard for this, and you have teammates that help you, and you go about your business, and and kind of sell it as other people don't understand. Well, they don't necessarily need to understand, but they want to see something cool.
Well, guess what? Dual meet. What's different about that is that wrestler that's maybe not the star, not the Fargo All-American. Guess what? His match can be a 12-point swing, just like the star from Fargo's.
Seen it, and that's the cool thing. You're going to have to put a kid in because you're going to move this other kid up. This kid's your JV kid, and you have your expectation for him to go out and just battle, and he's going to give it. He is going to be center stage, and he's going to give it everything he's got because it's for that purpose. It's neat. It is so neat.
And you did see, like with Maple Mountain, I think even Harriman too, do some strategic things to try to win as many matches as they could. And I thought it was kind of cool, let's move Taylor up a weight, see if that will help us. And, I saw Harriman do that with Jensen, and, it was really cool.
When I first started coaching at Orem High School, Brian, and I know you know this, Lane Billings was at Mountain View High School, and I assisted with Coach Steele a couple of years, and Coach Steele would always warn me of the games that Lane would play with the dual meet lineup, and you got to pay attention to this kid weighing in here and see if he weighs 2 kids in at this weight, and at first, I kind of came from an old school mindset where it's like, just put your lineup out there and you wrestle your kids, and no way, man. I came to recognize the fun of the strategy that goes into it, the games that you play. And that's part of what makes the dual meet situation a lot more entertaining, a lot more fun for the fans is, hey, you may bump a kid up to create a better matchup, and rather than going out and pinning a kid in 15 seconds, you move him up to create a better matchup where you're going to get the win at that weight still if you send another kid out. And that's part of the fun. And man, we used to have between Timpanogos, Orem, and Mountain View back in those days, and I know I'm throwing back, but we had a fun dual meet atmosphere because of the games that we would play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I experienced that.
I've been accused of those things, I've been accused. And Rick Thompson was one of the best, and we always kind of try to out strategize, me and Lane, and you and Lane, right? And
Yeah.
probably Wade went up against Lane a few times too,
Well, Kelly Sanderson got into it with us too when he was there at Timpanogos, and we'd get into some. Between Timpanogos, Mountain View, Orem, those three teams, we had some great region duels.
Yeah.
Well, the Orem coach, I think from last year, I did something. I suggested something to our young assistant to do something in the dual meet, and he did it, and it scored Provo some big points, and they almost won the duel against Orem, and they almost had a fight at the scorers table. It was great.
You can't do that. What's he doing?
You can't do that. You can't change your lineup.
No, it's easy.
You can't do that. There was a time.
Coach that now is in. I guess he's in Idaho now, but he was. It was kind of interesting. He had some choice words for our coach, and I think it didn't help him with his administrators. Probably, I don't know. I was kind of concerned for the guy, but that's what dual meets are about. Probably learned some tricks from my dad, right? And you probably learned some tricks from Daryl and Wade. He did all the tricks anyway.
I did everything. I tell you, the experiences you have, the people who learn things, right? I didn't get it either. But Minnesota, their whole state tournament's based upon the duel.
Yeah.
And there were some things that it was like they didn't follow the National High School Coach Association or the National Federation rules. They opted out. And
sometimes I think we ought to opt out.
This is before some things where consecutive days. I remember this one Apple Valley kid weighed in like at 152 the first day of the state dual tournament. The second day he shows up and I think he was their 35 pounder. And they puffed him up, got him full of water to make it look like he was going to be wrestling up. And the next day he slides in and they were able to move their lineup around and the coaches will do that and not even use that wrestler just to make the other coach do something. It was crazy. Right. Just the things that went on.
See, fans, get behind this dual meet concept because it is going to be crazy and wacky. You saw a little bit of it, with what Maple Mountain tried against Wasatch in the final, what Harriman tried, against PG. I don't know if with Maple Mountain it actually worked for them. Those things can backfire sometimes. But for Harriman, it did make their duel with PG closer and more competitive. Their strategy actually worked for them.
Sometimes, Brian, the thing that's fun too is, that coin flip. I don't know if a lot of people recognize this, but if you've been in those dual meet situations, but that coin flip at the beginning of the duel, when you're choosing odd or even weights,
it's crucial.
It means something, because what happens now is if I choose odds, then my odd wrestlers have to report to the mat first, And I remember a dual meet between Mountain View and Timpanogos where it came down to the flip of the coin at the beginning of the match, who was probably going to win that duel because it was going to determine who had to report to the table first, which was going to dictate who got to have the matchups they wanted,
Yeah.
So
I've seen that a bunch. And if you ever see me counting on my fingers before a duel, before the flip, it's because I'm trying to figure out which one, because the starting weight's different every duel. Yeah, I'm like, okay.
I was the reporter, last year on the whole event, and I was kind of over there behind Justin and Craig, and they're trying to put things together. Kind of, I'm just playing scoop, trying to figure out what they're going to do and stuff like that. It was fun. It was real fun. Now, I bet you just last question, Wade. How was it coaching your son when he won a state championship? That has to be pretty special.
Yeah, it was. You spend that much time with a kid and see him go through it, and for him to do that, it was a pretty special moment. And I don't know if you notice, I don't sit in his corner, and it has nothing to do with my son doesn't want me there. Well, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Probably doesn't. But I know I bring a level of stress that I don't have normally.
Right.
And stress, and it's not good. It's not good for him. And when he can just go out and focus and wrestle, he does a good job. And like I said, I've been fortunate with the people that I've had. Having Gabe come here, he's been a real big part of that whole thing in my son and my relationship, and my son's development. You know, I really think, you know, he's just starting to get really good at this.
Right. One thing you said earlier in the podcast that I want to reiterate too is that you know, coming through the youth ranks, and this is the thing that I wish people could understand. Wade didn't have aspirations of having a child superstar, and he let his wrestler progress at his own pace. He let him, you know, stay as involved or as uninvolved as he wanted to be, but he allowed him to grow his own love for the sport, you know. And you know, he wasn't the child superstar, but you're really starting to see him take huge strides and make tremendous progress right now.
Well, with three things here real quick. Cole, see you with your boys and handling them different. Hats off to that. There's something from the outside I admire. How you brought Tig and Zeke along differently because they're different. Wade, same thing with Jacob and all that. You know, we talked about Craig. He likes to be, or Taylor likes to have Craig in his corner, but you're astute enough to know this is better for Jake. It's not about me. It's about him. And if I need to sit on a chair on the side, that's better for my boy, I'm going to do that. You know, and I think that's great. You know, my own father, you know, I didn't end up being a state champ or anything, but why I'm here doing this podcast, why I love wrestling, was I told him about ninth grade. I said, I only want to wrestle for my colors, or basically my school. I'm done with freestyle. Don't want to do it anymore. And he said, that's fine, Brian. And then that re-energized my love for the sport. Yeah. And that's, I think, astute, you know, fatherhood kind of things, you know, that I've seen out of you, Wade, out of you, Cole, out of my own father. Of course, you know, Craig Lamont, great example of a father coach figure, you know, and I was glad to see Jacob on top of the podium. I thought that was cool.
It was pretty cool.
You know, and I can tell you, it's like, you know, he's a senior now and going for two, and that's pretty darn exciting. And Cole, your boy's what? He's going to be a ninth grader or eighth grader this year?
He's eighth grade this year.
Yeah, so, you know,
I don't think there's one magic bullet in how you do that, father, coach, son. I think every case is.
I think yeah, I think, Wade, it's important to recognize that every kid's different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and like, you know, Zeke grew up wrestling alongside Stockton O'Brien, right? And Stockton, through those years, he ate it up. He wanted to be at every tournament, every weekend, you know, and Zeke didn't, and that's okay, you know, and it was okay by me, you know. But I think equally, now Zeke's the one coming to me. I want to do more of this. He chose not to play baseball. I know that makes my brother Clint upset, right? But he chose not to play baseball because he wanted to do more wrestling this year.
Yeah.
That was his choice.
And he's doing some mountain biking too, and
he is.
Pretty darn cool. Jake, golf, Wade? See you golfer?
He golfed a couple of years in the fall here, but he's not anymore. I mean, he still plays, but
you know, that's what I told my dad. I said, hey, I want to go play golf. I'm done with this wrestling stuff in the spring, and it was good for me, like I said. But I'm just saying, you got to do what's right for your boy. That's the magic bullet. Is you got to find the individual magic bullet. So,
sure.
Well, Wade, you probably want to get home, get some rest. We all have day jobs tomorrow, right? I got 233 students waiting for me tomorrow.
Waiting.
What was that called?
Guys, thank you for having me on.
I say Wade's got a sleeping bag and a pillow in his office there at the school, I'm sure.
There you go. Hey, Wade,
crawl
thank
under
you
the desk.
so much. And, you're doing a wonderful job there at Wasatch, and it was a real privilege to talk to you tonight.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Wade.
Okay, signing out. Oh, before we go, fans, next week we're going to have Jade Rouser on, UVU All-American from last year, and he's the new Utah developmental coach for Utah or USA Wrestling Utah. I'm having a hard time, but Jade Rouser will be on next week talking about his new position with USA Wrestling Utah as the developmental coach. So we'll have him on next week. And again, we thank Wade Disher, head coach extraordinaire for Wasatch, joining us. And thank you, Cole, for joining us as well.
No problem.
Okay, well, take care, and we're signing off.